Hello and good afternoon. My name is Martin Cowart, and welcome to Noonday Meditation and Contemplative Prayer Power Hour. We have been gathering in this virtual sanctuary as a refuge to love and support each other through the pandemic. We've been gathering here for over a year now to just create a refuge, create a place to come and share. I do my best to bring in some spiritual wisdom to the moment, and then we meditate. We go in and we take a refuge from the outside world, and we go inside to resolve and get peace within ourselves, and then we can bring peace out into the world. So this is a great opportunity for me and for you to let go of all the worries and the drama that we can get so easily pulled into in our lives, and just have a place to go. Have a place to go. That's all it is. It's not any. There's nothing here. And this week, do me a favor, if you would. If you're joining me, please just type your name or type hello in the chat so I know you're here. You're always welcome to comment. I really love and appreciate dialogue, interaction with people who are here to learn and listen and meditate. And so just please, I love it when you respond to me. If you're watching the replay, also, I get more people watching replays than I do live. So make comments there, and I will come back and I'll reply. So thank you again for being here with me today. I'm so excited. This month we have been celebrating women, and it's just like, oh my God, we're going to celebrate a woman today. We're going to watch a video, a TED Talk that literally changed the direction of my life. If there's ever any one thing that happened, this is it. And it's so interesting today. I've been celebrating with people. The whole thing this week is extraordinary women doing ordinary things that inspire us. And I had a woman coming on today, a friend of mine. She's a meditation teacher, and she come up. She couldn't join me, so I had to think. Well, what woman has inspired me more than anyone else in the world? And that woman is Brené Brown. I watched her TED Talk on vulnerability, and it changed the direction. And it's I want to be her. I want to be on that stage changing lives. And the whole idea of vulnerability and the power of I just felt it. It was a transformational experience in itself. It was. It truly is. And that's the idea behind any good speech or any good talk. Is it's transformational. We want to come in at one way of being, and we want to come out at a higher level of consciousness. Basically, is what we want. And she, in this one talk, which has got like 50 something million views, it's one of the top most viewed TED Talks ever produced. And when you watch it, we're going to watch it together. It's 20 minutes, and we're going to watch it, and then we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to meditate, because she is truly pointing us into. I mean, now this is sort of everyday thinking, but when she did this talk, it was really revolutionary to talk about things like vulnerability and shame and the things she's getting ready to talk about. So my encouragement for you is to just sit back, open your heart, and listen, because it's really quite extraordinary what she's going to share with all of us. Again, every time I watch this, as a matter of fact, every time I'm going to give a speech, a major speech, I will go back and watch this talk to give me some inspiration and some ideas, because she's got the whole layout of the speech from a public speaking perspective is absolutely spot on. And just notice what she does. Notice how you feel. Notice how she makes you feel. Notice how you're feeling now, and notice how you're feeling when she's finished. Okay? So let me bring her on the screen. Let me share my screen with you. And I'm going to put her on the big, and let me get this going here.
So I'll start with this. A couple of years ago, an event planner called me because I was going to do a speaking event. And she called and she said, I'm really struggling with how to write about you on the little flyer. And I thought, well, what's the struggle? And she said, Well, I saw you speak, and I'm going to call you a researcher, I think, but I'm afraid if I call you a researcher, no one will come because they'll think you're boring and irrelevant. And I was like, okay. And she said, but the thing I liked about your talk is, you're a storyteller. So I think what I'll do is just call you a storyteller. And of course, the academic, insecure part of me was like, you're going to call me a what? And she said, I'm going to call you a storyteller. And I was like, oh, why not Magic Pixie? I was like, let me think about this for a second. And so I tried to call deep on my courage. And I thought, I am a storyteller. I'm a qualitative researcher. I collect stories. That's what I do. And maybe stories are just data with a soul, and maybe I'm just a storyteller. So I said, you know what? Why don't you just say I'm a researcher storyteller? And she went, there's no such thing. So I'm a researcher storyteller. And I'm going to talk to you today. We're talking about expanding perception. And so I want to talk to you and tell some stories about a piece of my research that fundamentally expanded my perception and really actually changed the way that I live and love and work and parent. And this is where my story starts. When I was a young researcher, doctoral student, my first year, I had a research professor who said to us, here's the thing. If you cannot measure it, it does not exist. And I thought he was just sweet talking me. I was like, really? And he's like, absolutely. So you have to understand that I have a bachelor's in social work, a master's in social work, and I was getting my PhD in social work. So my entire academic career was surrounded by people who kind of believed in the life's messy, love it, and I'm more the life's messy, clean it up, organize it, and put it into a bento box. And so to think that I had found my way, to found a career that takes me, really one of the big sayings in social work is lean into the discomfort of the work. And I'm like, knock discomfort upside the head and move it over and get all A's. That was my mantra. So I was very excited about this. And so I thought, you know what? This is the career for me because I am interested in some messy topics, but I want to be able to make them not messy. I want to understand them. I want to hack into these things that I know are important and lay the code out for everyone to see. So where I started was with connection, because by the time you're a social worker for 10 years, what you realize is that connection is why we're here. It's what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. This is what it's all about. It doesn't matter whether you talk to people who work in social justice and mental health and abuse and neglect. What we know is that connection, the ability to feel connected, is neurobiologically, that's how we're wired. It's why we're here. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to start with connection. Well, that situation where you get an evaluation from your boss and she tells you 37 things that you do really awesome and one thing that you can't, an opportunity for growth. And all you can think about is that opportunity for growth, right? Well, apparently this is the way my work went as well, because when you ask people about love, they tell you about heartbreak. When you ask people about belonging, they'll tell you their most excruciating experiences of being excluded. And when you ask people about connection, the stories they told me were about disconnection. So very quickly, really about 6 weeks into this research, I ran into this unnamed thing that absolutely unraveled connection in a way that I didn't understand or had never seen. And so I pulled back out of the research and thought, I need to figure out what this is. And it turned out to be shame. And shame is really easily understood as the fear of disconnection. Is there something about me that if other people know it or see it, that I won't be worthy of connection? The things I can tell you about it, it's universal. We all have it. The only people who don't experience shame have no capacity for human empathy or connection. No one wants to talk about it, and the less you talk about it, the more you have it. What underpinned this shame, this I'm not good enough, which we all know that feeling. I'm not blank enough. I'm not thin enough, rich enough, beautiful enough, smart enough, promoted enough. The thing that underpinned this was excruciating vulnerability. This idea of, in order for connection to happen, we have to allow ourselves to be seen, really seen. And you know how I feel about vulnerability. I hate vulnerability. And so I thought, this is my chance to beat it back with my measuring stick. I'm going in. I'm going to figure this stuff out. I'm going to spend a year. I'm going to totally deconstruct shame. I'm going to understand how vulnerability works, and I'm going to outsmart it. So I was ready, and I was really excited. As you know, it's not going to turn out well. You know this. So I can tell you a lot about shame, but I'd have to borrow everyone else's time. But here's what I can tell you that it boils down to. And this may be one of the most important things that I've ever learned in the decade of doing this research. My 1 year turned into 6 years, thousands of stories, hundreds of long interviews, focus groups. At one point, people were sending me journal pages and sending me their stories, thousands of pieces of data. And 6 years. And I kind of got a handle on it. I kind of understood this is what shame is. This is how it works. I wrote a book. I published a theory, but something was not okay. And what it was is that if I roughly took the people I interviewed and divided them into people who really have a sense of worthiness, that's what this comes down to, a sense of worthiness. They have a strong sense of love and belonging. And folks who struggle for it, and folks who are always wondering if they're good enough. There was only one variable that separated the people who have a strong sense of love and belonging and the people who really struggle for it. And that was the people who have a strong sense of love and belonging believe they're worthy of love and belonging. That's it. They believe they're worthy. And to me, the hard part of the one thing that keeps us out of connection is our fear that we're not worthy of connection, was something that personally and professionally I felt like I needed to understand better. So what I did is I took all of the interviews where I saw worthiness, where I saw people living that way, and just looked at those. What do these people have in common? And I have a slight office supply addiction, but it's another talk. So I had a manila notebook, a manila folder, and I had a Sharpie. And I was like, what am I going to call this research? And the first words that came to my mind were wholehearted. These are kind of wholehearted people living from this deep sense of worthiness. So I wrote at the top of the manila folder. And I started looking at the data. In fact, I did it first in this in a 4-day, very intensive data analysis where I went back, pulled these interviews, pulled the stories, pulled the incidents. What's the theme? What's the pattern? My husband left town with the kids because I always go into this kind of Jackson Pollock crazy thing where I'm just like writing and going and kind of just in my researcher mode. And so here's what I found. What they had in common was a sense of courage. And I want to separate courage and bravery for you for a minute. Courage, the original definition of courage, when it first came into the English language, it's from the Latin word cur, meaning heart. And the original definition was to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart. And so these folks had, very simply, the courage to be imperfect. They had the compassion to be kind to themselves first and then to others, because as it turns out, we can't practice compassion with other people if we can't treat ourselves. And the last was they had connection, and this was the hard part, as a result of authenticity. They were willing to let go of who they thought they should be in order to be who they were, which is, you have to absolutely do that for connection. The other thing that they had in common was this. They fully embraced vulnerability. They believed that what made them vulnerable made them beautiful. They didn't talk about vulnerability being comfortable, nor did they really talk about it being excruciating, as I had heard earlier in the shame interviewing. They just talked about it being necessary. They talked about the willingness to say, I love you first. The willingness to do something where there are no guarantees. The willingness to breathe through waiting for the doctor to call after your mammogram. The willing to invest in a relationship that may or may not work out. They thought this was fundamental. I personally thought it was betrayal. I could not believe I had pledged allegiance to research, where our job, the definition of research is to control and predict, to study phenomenon for the reason, for the explicit reason to control and predict. And now my mission to control and predict had turned up the answer that the way to live is with vulnerability and to stop controlling and predicting. This led to a little breakdown, which actually looked more like this. And it did. It led to I call it a breakdown. My therapist calls it a spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening sounds better than breakdown, but I assure you it was a breakdown. And I had to put my data away and go find a therapist. Let me tell you something. You know who you are when you call your friends and say, I think I need to see somebody. Do you have any recommendations? Because about 5 of my friends are like, woo, I wouldn't want to be your therapist. And I was like, what does that mean? And they're like, I'm just saying, like, don't bring your measuring stick. Like, okay. So I found a therapist. My first meeting with her, Diana, I brought in my list of the way the wholehearted live. And I sat down and she said, how are you? And I said, I'm great. I'm okay. And she said, what's going on? And I said, and this is a therapist who sees therapists, because we have to go to those because their BS meters are good. And so I said, here's the thing, I'm struggling. And she said, what's the struggle? And I said, well, I have a vulnerability issue. And, and I know that vulnerability is kind of the core of shame and fear and our struggle for worthiness, but it appears that it's also the birthplace of joy, of creativity, of belonging, of love. And I think I have a problem, and I need some help. And I said, but here's the thing, no family stuff, no childhood shit. I just need some strategies. Thank you. So she goes like this. And then I said, it's bad, right? She said, it's neither good nor bad. It just is what it is. And I said, oh my God, this is going to suck. And it did, and it didn't. And it took about a year. And you know how there are people that, like, when they realize that vulnerability and tenderness are important, that they kind of surrender and walk into it? A, that's not me. And B, I don't even hang out with people like that. For me, it was a year-long street fight. It was a slugfest. Vulnerability pushed, I pushed back. I lost the fight, but probably won my life back. And so then I went back into the research and spent the next couple of years really trying to understand what the wholehearted, what the choices they were making, and what are we doing with vulnerability? Why do we struggle with it so much? Am I alone in struggling with vulnerability? No. So this is what I learned. We numb vulnerability. When we're waiting for the call, it was funny, I sent something out on Twitter and on Facebook that says, how would you define vulnerability? What makes you feel vulnerable? And within an hour and a half, I had 150 responses. Because I wanted to know, what's out there. Having to ask my husband for help because I'm sick and we're newly married. Initiating sex with my husband, initiating sex with my wife. Being turned down, asking someone out. Waiting for the doctor to call back, getting laid off, laying off people. This is the world we live in. We live in a vulnerable world. And one of the ways we deal with it is we numb vulnerability. And I think there's evidence, and it's not the only reason this evidence exists, but I think that it's a huge cause. We are the most in debt, obese, addicted, and medicated adult cohort in US history. The problem is, and I learned this from the research, that you cannot selectively numb emotion. You can't say, here's the bad stuff. Here's vulnerability, here's grief, here's shame, here's fear, here's disappointment. I don't want to feel these. I'm going to have a couple of beers and a banana nut muffin. I don't want to feel these. And I know that's knowing laughter. I hack into your lives for a living. I know that's, God. You can't numb those hard feelings without numbing the other affects or emotions. You cannot selectively numb. So when we numb those, we numb joy. We numb gratitude. We numb happiness. And then we are miserable and we are looking for purpose and meaning. And then we feel vulnerable. So then we have a couple of beers and a banana nut muffin. And it becomes this dangerous cycle. One of the things that I think that we need to think about is why and how we numb. And it doesn't just have to be addiction. The other thing we do is we make everything that's uncertain certain. Religion has gone from a belief in faith and mystery to certainty. I'm right, you're wrong, shut up. That's it. Just certain. The more afraid we are, the more vulnerable we are, the more afraid we are. This is what politics looks like today. There's no discourse anymore. There's no conversation. There's just blame. You know how blame is described in the research? A way to discharge pain and discomfort. We perfect. If there's anyone who wants their life to look like this, it would be me. But it doesn't work, because what we do is we take fat from our butts and put it in our cheeks. Which just, I hope in 100 years people will look back and go, wow. You know? And we perfect, most dangerously, our children. Let me tell you what we think about children. They're hardwired for struggle when they get here. When you hold those perfect little babies in your hand, our job is not to say, look at her, she's perfect. My job is just to keep her perfect, make sure she makes the tennis team by 5th grade and Yale by 7th grade. That's not our job. Our job is to look and say, you know what? You're imperfect and you're wired for struggle, but you are worthy of love and belonging. That's our job. Show me a generation of kids raised like that and we'll end the problems I think that we see today. We pretend that what we do doesn't have an effect on people. We do that in our personal lives. We do that corporate, whether it's a bailout, an oil spill, a recall. We pretend like what we're doing doesn't have a huge impact on other people. I would say to companies, this is not our first rodeo, people. We just need you to be authentic and real and say, we're sorry, we'll fix it. But there's another way, and I'll leave you with this. This is what I have found. To let ourselves be seen, deeply seen, vulnerably seen. To love with our whole hearts, even though there's no guarantee. And that's really hard. And I can tell you as a parent, that's excruciatingly difficult. To practice gratitude and joy in those moments of kind of terror when we're wondering, can I love you this much? Can I believe in this as passionately? Can I be this fierce about this? Just to be able to stop and instead of catastrophizing what might happen, to say, I'm just so grateful. Because to feel this vulnerable means I'm alive. And the last, which I think is probably the most important, is to believe that we're enough. Because when we work from a place, I believe, that says, I'm enough, then we stop screaming and start listening. We're kinder and gentler to the people around us, and we're kinder and gentler to ourselves. That's all I have.
Wow. I'm so grateful. How are you feeling? after all of that. Let me just turn everything off here 1 second. Okay. Wow. Hello, Audrey. Does that inspire you the way it inspires me? I just can't, every time I watch that, I can't help but just feel so much emotion and transformation. I mean, she speaks right to my heart, and that's why I wanted to share that today, because she speaks to the truth. I mean, she really gets down to the truth of it all. And I'm just so grateful for her and her work and what she's doing and how she's inspired me. And I'm feeling that way right now. I feel realizing that as a leader in my own business and a leader in my own life, that it's by practicing vulnerability that I lead more boldly, you know. And what it comes down to is to what kind of leaders do we all want to lead us? Is the kind of leaders we want to be in our businesses, in our lives, and when it comes down to what we want people who we can trust, who are going to tell us the truth. They're going to be authentic. You know, and that's what we want as leaders for in our corporate world, in our political world, and as business owners, we want to lead our businesses from a place of trustworthiness. Another one is empathy. We have to lead from a place of understanding other people's shoes so that we know what we can deliver is going to make a difference in their lives. If we can't feel what other people are feeling, how do we even know if what we're delivering is going to be of value? We have to be able to feel the people we serve, feel the people that we lead, so that we'll know how to lead them. We can relate to them. We become, and that feels vulnerable. And then compassion. She talks about wholeheartedness. We have to be compassionate with ourselves, compassion with other people, you know. And finally, competency. We've got to be good at we got to master our craft. We've got to be good at what we do. Whether we're a public speaker, we got to master that. I'm working on a TEDx talk myself. I've got coaches that are helping me master my public speaking skills, my talking skills, so I'm going to give a really good, awesome TED Talk. But let me tell you something. All this noise in my head of being an imposter or being a phony, it all creeps in because I've never given a TED Talk, and it scares me. I think, well, I'll never give one as good as her. But if I'm saying that, I'm not hearing what she's saying. I imagine what makes her talk so good is she is very vulnerable up there. She is telling the truth of herself. You're seeing authenticity, you're seeing empathy, you're seeing compassion, and you're seeing a master. So that's my inspiration for today, and that's my inspiration in my want for celebrating women, because I can't imagine anyone that's doing more for the world right now than Brené Brown. She's got a wonderful podcast, and wow, what an inspiration she is. So my encouragement is if you're watching the replay, please write your thoughts. How has she inspired you? How are you thinking differently? What did you get from listening to her today? Where are you vulnerable? Where are you not vulnerable? Where are you afraid? You know, how be willing to share your vulnerability. And if you're in my Facebook group, Financial Heart Space for Gay, that's a safe space for you to share that. I mean, if you're watching it through my Facebook page and my public page, it may not be so, but you can certainly always send me a direct message and I'll respond to you. And I would love to be in that engaging conversation with you, because I'm on a mission to end this, what I call the scarcity mindset, which is what she's talking about, is this belief that we're not enough, we're not smart enough, good enough, imposter syndrome. It shows up in so many ways, and it's all a big lie. So, but it feels vulnerable to be out there talking about something that everyone wants to believe, that there's not enough. And so when you try to say, yeah, but there really is, they don't want to hear it because it's contrary to their egoic belief system. So, she inspires me to go out there and and I'll tell you, the further you go out with your beliefs and your opinions and things that are thought that are different than maybe the rest of the norm, and if those opinions and beliefs are coming from a place of compassion and truth, it is, Scott Peck says, sometimes a road less traveled, because it certainly is much easier to stay with the pack and to stay with everybody else and not disrupt anything. But as CEOs, we are disruptors. We are disruptors. By nature, we're disruptors. So I hope that this talk was helpful today and opened your heart a little bit. We're going to do a little meditating now. We got 20 minutes to meditate, and then we'll be ready for the weekend. How about that? So thank you so much for listening. Again, if you're watching the replay, please type your thoughts. Listen to it. This is a powerful. It's like, this is really one of the most powerful talks I've ever listened to. And don't take my word for it. Listen to it for yourself. That's the one I can say is listen to it for yourself. Let me find my meditation timer. And we will meditate. I'm setting the timer for 20 minutes. And we're going to take about the first 5 minutes will me be guiding you through the meditation, telling you what's going on so that you can just sit back and relax and let go of everything and be still. So that's the sound of the bell. Now, I like to start by sitting up straight in your chair, getting in the position, getting in a position of intention to be still and meditate. And so I stand up, sit up proud in your chair like a proud human being, and then raise your arms up in the air. And the reason I like to raise my arms is, one, I want to celebrate women this month. I'm celebrating Brené Brown. I'm celebrating women. I want to put my arms up with that life energy inside of us and raise arms. And that's just to remind us, feel in your fingertips, feel in your toes, feel throughout your body, that life force within us. That is that life force energy. And we can actually feel it pulsating through our veins right now. Feel it in your fingertips. And then you can put your hands down in your lap, be comfortable, and just begin to breathe. Just begin to breathe normally. And let the sound of that bell pull you deeper inside yourself. And as you're breathing, allow the breath to bring us from outward thinking to inward looking. Let the breath pull us more deeply within ourselves, out of our heads and into our hearts, and deep into our bellies. A little technique that I've been teaching that I do is about how one way to kind of quiet or to calm down the brain, the thinking, is to relax the back of your tongue with your breath. And the way to do that is to take the tip of your tongue and rest it on the roof of your mouth just behind the front teeth. So it's just a natural way of just letting it kind of gets anchored there. And then part your lips, relax your jaw, breathe. And as you're breathing, think about just massaging the back of your tongue. Do that right now. And just notice when you begin to massage the tongue, as the tongue quits vibrating, when we think our tongue vibrates, just a little bit. And if we consciously begin to think about slowing down the vibration of the tongue, it will slow down the thinking in our head. So just try it. Just sit, put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, part your lips, and just breathe. And as you're breathing, focus on using the breath to massage the tongue. Do that right now. And just notice as thoughts come up, think, relax the tongue. Shift your focus away from the mind to the breath on the back of your tongue. And just notice what happens. Get very present when you just think about the breath as a way of massaging the back of your tongue to slow it down. So we're going to do 3 big belly breaths to create some more space within ourselves and to let go of all the nonsense and all the thoughts in our heads. It's known as emptying. Centering prayer is a way of emptying out everything within us to create space for love and joy and creativity. So we're going to create some space for that with our breath. So this is what we're going to do with our belly. We're going to breathe in through the nose. We're going to bring the breath down our throats, past the tongue to massage it, open our hearts, and with our belly muscles, pull the breath deep into our belly. You ready? Pull it in a little deeper. Hold it. And as you let it go, let everything go with it. Let every thought, every opinion, every judgment, every belief, every story hold on to nothing. And now just breathe and massage the back of your tongue. Allow yourself to get still with the breath. Allow the breath to quiet the mind, slow down the tongue, and breathe deeply into your belly to create a little more space. Find that anchor in your belly and breathe into that slowly. And then we're going to take another big, deep belly breath deep inside to create as much space as we can. And when we let it, we're going to let go of every last ounce of thought, belief, opinion, and judgment we have. Okay? You ready? Into the nose, down the throat, relax the tongue, open the heart, down in your belly, hold it, expand the belly. Let it go. Let everything go. And feel that bell bring you more deeply within yourself. We're going to do one more big belly breath, and then I'm going to be still. And all you're going to hear are the interval bells every few minutes, maybe about 3 or 4, to wake us up from our thinking. You ready? With your belly, pull the breath in through the nose, down the throat, massage the tongue, open your heart, and pull it down deep into your belly. Ready to go. Hold it a little further. Hold it for a second. Hold all this in and just let it go and feel the spaciousness. And allow yourself to just breathe and be still and love. There's that sweet, sweet, sweet sound of the wake-up bell to pull us out of our thinking, our planning, our strategies, our worrying, all those wonderful things our minds tend to do. All we got to do is just let it all go and be still and fall back into the stillness of pure love consciousness. Oh, there's that sweet sound of the wake-up bell again. Allow it to wake us up from our thinking, our planning, our thoughting, our worrying. Just greet it with an open arms and a big smile and let it go. And fall back into that beautiful spaciousness of I don't know. The arms of the Divine Mother. There's our final bell to welcome us back into the material world. the already created world. Wow, what we've created. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Anybody got any comments they want to add? Audrey, you got something you want to say? You've always got something good to say. And again, if you're watching the replay, which many people do, I'm going to encourage you to put your comments in them, and I'll come back and add them in later. How did you feel? How did you feel watching this? How did you feel when you started watching it? And how did you feel when you ended it? For me, I felt like I wasn't alone. Something about connection. I felt like it is through this deep level of vulnerability that we realize how much we need each other. And that's the reason why I created this podcast. We feel vulnerable alone. And I'm so grateful for Zoom and StreamYard and the internet that we can actually interact with each other in very meaningful and powerful ways. And I've never met Brené Brown, but she's but she's certainly had a tremendous influence on my lives and the lives of many. And we all have that ability here through the modern technology of the internet, social media. It's wonderful. Used the right way. It can be used in destructive ways. We all know what that looks like. But it can also be used in wonderful ways to inspire, heal, motivate. So thank you so much for being here with me today. And, and a couple of things here that I have recently, many of you know, I'm also I'm a spiritual teacher. I'm a prosperity and a mindset coach, and working primarily with gay, transgender, and bisexual men, specifically helping entrepreneurs to cultivate a prosperity mindset, to get clear about their mission in life. And then finally, to really what I love doing is with prosperity coaches, showing people how much they can enjoy doing what they love and making money. Enjoy making money doing what you love. It's the way it should be. I'm having more fun now doing what I love. I love this, and I love making money more than anything I've ever done in my life. And it can be the same thing for you. And I'm in the age where people are supposed to be retiring. I'm 66 years old. I've never felt more plugged in, more connected, more vulnerable in my life as I feel right now. And it's fun. It's a good way to be. You can be the same. It's all there for everybody. And so I hope today's conversation. So I was going to say that if you're a gay, bi, trans man and you want to, I created a Facebook group specifically for us to share and be vulnerable, share our work, grow our businesses with love and support, not competition. So if that's you, please join us. There's a link somewhere around the video that takes you right to my Facebook group. Just please answer the questions. We're trying to keep it safe and secure for our tribe for good reasons. So thank you for that. And I appreciate it. And I'd love to see you on the inside of that, if that's you. So in the meantime, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being here. And may love and prosperity prevail. Thank you.